And we're back for another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. And later on, we will have a full Lakers snack pack as well. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football. The Lakers Fast Break, truly talks to you out there, as well as the Pop Culture Cosmos, all the great shows. Please go ahead and check them out wherever you get your podcasts. Also, as well, Joe Soros here. He is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com, plus also his company, Simblades, Simblades with the Y.com. If you want to go ahead in the Southern California, get a new lawn transformed, although I know that his business right now is, as far as what's going on with some of his clients, are kind of a little bit on their edge, but we'll talk about that. We'll approach that on the Lakers Snack Pack. Plus also, as well, of course, don't forget to get his game, the Indie Fighting Game of the Year, Corrupt, Coreupt, on Steam as well. But I wanted to go ahead and touch on this. Chris Artieri and hopefully Sean Grice will be joining us here momentarily. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate it. It is the NFL playoffs and college football playoffs. It's going to be a very busy weekend. We are not ignoring the fact that the devastating fires in the Southern California area. Again, our hearts are with you, and we will be going into this more on the Lakers snack pack, because we do know about how it could affect not only the city, the community, but also the sporting events that are coming up this weekend, including the Lakers game tomorrow. So we will cover that in full on the Lakers snack pack coming up here later on this evening. But yes, we are here back for football. Joe will give his picks, his thoughts on the games, both college and pro football alike. Joe, how you doing, my friend? I know you and I have a lot of people we still know, and we do know in the Southern California area. Our thoughts are with them, but I know the sporting world in many cases still has to move on, my friend, with some big games this weekend.
I was in Beverly Hills today on a project. Wasn't bad over there, but you did see the skies in certain parts. Um, I heard about 2 hours ago that the fires might have hit the Hollywood Hills. There's been a couple of famous people that have had their houses burnt down. I think
Quite a few, actually.
James Woods was the first one I heard. Another one was
Mark
Robert James.
Hamill. Yeah, there's actually quite a few that have got. If you go to Hollywood Reporter, I think they have a list of the entire. But yeah, anybody Malibu, right along the Pacific Shore there on PCH, basically northwest of Santa Monica Pier. Everybody there in that area is in a lot of trouble. Pacific Palisades, Malibu, and then there's actually 4 hotspots right now as well. So yeah, it's very, very concerning, my friend.
Yeah, a lot of news coming out on why and what. Usually, it always follows some kind of conspiracy theory, obviously, and then really conspiracy theories are just entertainment at this point. I don't really, even if they're true, I don't believe them anymore. Uh, the issue with that area, maybe not so much Palisade specific, but Malibu has had enough fire issues to where I'm still in shock that they haven't been able to figure this thing out. They have millions and millions of dollars that they have allocated to certain things in that city, yet it's not to protect uh, the land. But they're gonna maybe learn a lesson here. I don't know,
Well,
but
those winds, though, those winds just basically ripped everything apart
and the
yesterday.
Santa Ana winds are not something that's new, and they may have been more aggressive now than ever, maybe ever before, for all I know. But this is something that happens all the time. Santa Ana winds come through here. Even I have to move things in my backyard so they don't blow over. I have to make sure nothing blows into the pool. This is not something that isn't known, and I think it's just nature and bad luck and bad decisions all in one at this point. I don't know what they're gonna do over there. I guess if The winds are going to stop tomorrow, from what I heard. So as soon
They're
as
actually down significantly right now.
tomorrow comes, I think everything's going to be okay with the wind, and then they're going to be able to start dropping some things to stop the fires.
Let's hope that's the case.
I was involved with the '07 fire in San Diego, and it was pretty crazy. I we got woken up by sirens and people knocking on the door telling us to get out. I looked outside my window and all I saw, because we used to live in a condo right up, and right next to was a huge hill with a cross on the top. And it was weird. I looked outside the window half asleep, and all I see is a ball of fire coming down the hill. I was like, am I really seeing this? And we didn't expect it. There was a chance that we would have to evacuate, but we didn't expect it to be that quick before we went to bed that night. And then we were out of there pretty quick and went to my uncle's house, not too far from where he was inland. And then they got evacuated maybe about 3 or 4 hours later. And then I had to go down to Mission Valley, down in Mission Valley's central area of San Diego, where there's concrete and asphalt everywhere, so nothing's going to hit there. Where Qualcomm used to be, where the Chargers used to play. And we were there at my buddy's house for 2 weeks until they gave us the green light to get back home. And I was elated that nothing happened to the condo. We had Spanish tiles, so maybe the embers didn't get through as much. All I had to do was sweep up the soot in the backyard, and I've never been so happy to sweep in the backyard before, because I knew that nothing had happened to the building.
M24 said he just got word his childhood home in Altadena is completely gone and he might have to fly back home and help. Truly sorry to hear that, M24. Our best to you and your family and your loved ones. I know that I've been in constant touch with my sister, who lives just south from where the fires are affected. And she is, yeah, the air quality is just piss poor right now because of what's going on. Hopefully, she will stay safe. And if you got anyone affected, Danny, if you're listening, we hope you and your family are okay. I know you had to be evacuated, or you were close to being evacuated, and I'm assuming you had to be evacuated shortly after your conversation with us. So our thoughts are with you and your family, and hope everybody's safe out there. And in fact, everyone out there that's affected by these fires. Hopefully, you are safe as well. But on the snack pack, we will talk more about it as far as how it might affect tomorrow's game against the Charlotte Hornets and the upcoming playoff games as well. But it is, of course, Chris Sardieri is also back. How are you holding up, my friend?
Luckily, we're doing well here. Probably some of the worst winds we've had living in this town for 20 years, but thankfully, no fires, no smoke. Yard's a bit messy, but that's the least of our problems.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you and your family stay safe. But for most of the sporting world, it does continue. I know that the LA Kings game for the NHL was canceled today, or postponed, excuse me. So we'll find out what's going on there. If you're a follower of the NHL, we'll find out again if what's going on. If the NBA's LA Lakers are going to be affected by it against the Charlotte Hornets, and also the NFL with the Rams and the Vikings having been moved possibly to Arizona as well. So we'll go ahead and talk about that here upcoming. But it is, of course, football on the plate, both college and pro. Thought, Joe, before we get into the pro stuff, because there's more games there to cover, there's a couple of intriguing college football matchups because they're running almost simultaneously with the NFL playoffs. Your thoughts, Joe, on what's coming up this weekend? I know that my bracket has already been blown out because the University of O doesn't mean Oregon; it means overrated. So because they, a regular season juggernaut means a postseason not so juggernaut. I know Penn State was a team that I thought might surprise, and they're still in it. Notre Dame, after that early loss, a surprising early loss, they're back in it now, and all these other teams and conferences are picking on them because they don't have a conference championship, and so they play one less game. Your thoughts on the college football going to go on this weekend?
Yes, I finally had one bust in my bracket. I had Georgia beating Notre Dame, but Notre Dame seemed to have control of that game the entire time. As far as, and I talked to Sean about this. I felt Notre Dame would be an interesting team if they could win it all. I don't know why I thought that. I have no affiliation with Notre Dame. I have no reason to think that. I don't really care about the whole drama behind them always talking about conference this, independence that. Like, I don't. Who cares? Conferences still don't mean anything. If you look at the champions since 2005, there hasn't been one damn team that's been on the left coast since 2005. I mean, you're talking almost 20 years. It's almost like in the NHL with Stanley Cup champions. That there still hasn't been a Canadian team to win a cup since 1993, and unfortunately had to be the Kings that lost that one. But Montreal and Patrick Roy were amazing that year, so none to cry about. But I'm gonna stick with Notre Dame beating Penn State. I might be wrong on that one, but I'm cheering for them. And then I just because my family's Michigan people, and I don't look at it I don't look at college football because I don't have a favorite or in basketball or I don't look at college football in any other way other than being objective and feeling like the kind of getting the feel for what's going on. So a little bit of me said before even the playoffs started, I said, wouldn't it be hilarious if Ohio State wins it all after all they dealt with? And it wasn't funny, actually, when I thought about it. I go, they barely lost to Oregon, and they're going to play them again. I go, they're gonna whoop them this time, and they did. And then the loss to Michigan, I don't really count that because it's just like a division team in the NFL playing against another division team. I'm never surprised, no matter how bad a team is in the division, when they beat a better team, because that's what they prepare for all year. They know they have to play this team twice a year, and there's a rivalry and all that. And in college, we all know about the Michigan Ohio State thing. So I think we might have something once this is done and there's a final. I think we'll be able to do a show on that maybe. But right now, I'm sticking with my original picks minus Georgia. Notre Dame beat Georgia, so I'm going to stick with Notre Dame. I'm going to go with Ohio State and Notre Dame in the final in the last championship or national championship game, and I want Notre Dame to win, but I feel that Ohio State's going to win it all.
Chris, the semifinals for college football is this actually, I can't even say this weekend, it's Thursday and Friday. So with that, my friend, on the cusp of a great football weekend, Penn State versus Notre Dame and Texas versus Ohio State. Your thoughts on the college football semifinals?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm surprised it's Notre Dame, Penn State, but given that Georgia played a backup quarterback, I think that win was not as shocking as it could have been. But I think that's a good old school 1970s and 80s style semifinal showdown. Every time I think Penn State's due for a loss or James Franklin will do something silly like he did earlier in the year against Ohio State, he's proven me wrong now. SMU and Boise State are not in a class of Notre Dame or even Ohio State, but I think it'll be a good game. I'm going to agree with Joe, and I think Notre Dame edges them out. I just like the way their defense is playing. I think Freeman's a better coach than Franklin. The second game on Friday, in normal times, if Ohio State wasn't this sudden juggernaut with all the momentum, I think, well, it's going to be tough to beat Texas in a glorified home game. But Quinn Ewers worries me. Sarkisian always worries me. And, the Texas defense played well for a while until they let Arizona State back into it. But they're going to have a tall order against Ohio State. But if they manage to pull off the upset, I personally thought going in, looking at this bracket, the winner of this game has to be the favorite to win it all. But I still think it'll be Ohio State.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is, of course, Joe Soro and Chris Sardieri. Truly glad to have you here. I'm gonna say Penn State. I'm gonna say Penn State is gonna be pulling the upset. It's a slight upset on Notre Dame, although I do like the fact that he has the press conference. Franklin does, and he's talking about how college football needs more uniformity. Everybody needs to be in a conference, have a conference championship, etc. And the Notre Dame coach is sitting right next to him. As Joe would say, tact, tact, everyone, tact, just to try and stick it in there. But I don't believe in Texas either. Sarkeesian, viewers alike. I'm going to go with a all Big Ten, even though it's not a Big Ten, it's like a Big 17 final with Ohio State and Penn State. So looking forward to seeing how that works out. But the big boys do also play this weekend as the NFL football playoffs start. I want to start with you, Chris. Some of the playoff bracket. I know that you, speaking of our fantasy football, I finished second in my ESPN league because Jared Goff, didn't get it done over Jahmyr Gibbs. I was just down to those last two players, Gibbs on one side and Goff on the other, and I had the poorer of the two, and that's all it took for me to lose out on that. But third place for me, although I could take solace in the fact that I would have had a better score than either you or your championship team by just like 2 points, but that does me no good. It only counts in horseshoes. Congratulations on your second place finish in the Money League, my friend. How did you do overall in fantasy football?
Thanks. We made it to the quarters in another league and lost. Ran into the buzzsaw one week. That was Lamar Jackson. Not much you can do about
Mm.
that, but still a close loss. And like you, I like doing the hindsight thing. And then in the consolation game, scored a ton of points and probably would have finished at least third, if not second, in another money league. But oh well. Jared Goff was a big plus in that league, and in our league, Gerald. If we had played you and you beat us by 2 points, I would do a whole segment with how you need to send a thank you note to Mr. Brock Purdy for his two late interceptions and a sack. That definitely didn't help. We were going up, for instance, against the Lions defense in this case, but it's just stuff like that, like Dom and I were talking about. These Monday night games are meaningless. Everyone watches them because they're degenerates like us, worried about Brock Purdy taking another sack late in the game. But I mean, we had Gibbs in that league, and I think especially once Montgomery went down, that helped us in the playoff run because he was the guy in Detroit. So we'll always have a fond place in our heart for Mr. Gibbs.
We know you got canceled out early because of some bad luck, Joe. But that's unusual for you because you usually rank very high in your fantasy football. Looking to make some changes in how you approach the draft this time around, next time?
Drafting McCaffrey was the killer. I've never had the first pick like this and make make a bad choice ever, and had it really actually resonate the whole year. I lost 3 games because of him. Now, you can say it wasn't my fault too, in a way, because I know some of my guys. You didn't know. I didn't know till Monday night he wasn't going to play, and I was down like 4 points. All I needed was 5 points to win the game, and I couldn't replace him. So I lost out on week 1, and then I think week 3 and week 4, had I just drafted Robinson, which I should have done. At that time, he was like 1 and 2 with him, right?
Yeah, my Tampa Bay running back got sat down at the last minute.
So
that was a 0 right there.
Yeah, it was. And the thing is, in that same league, I was in week 13 or week 14? One of those weeks, like a month before, right around when the playoffs were about to start. I had the week before the last regular season, before you get into the playoffs, I had 2 points more scored than the top player. I was getting everyone's best week, and I lost 3 or 4 games by like 3 or 4 points. Yeah. It's one of those anomalies. I don't think it'll ever happen again. This was by far the freakiest one.
Well, best of luck, both of you guys, on next year's fantasy football. I love that we were all competitive in our leagues, and hopefully up being even bigger success next season. But Chris, it is the big boys, the actual big boys, are playing this weekend. We've got some good games coming up. Where do you want to go to first, my friend? What is the most intriguing? I know, again, the Rams and the Vikings, we're not exactly sure where that's going to be played right now. You have the Buccaneers and the Commanders, Eagles and the Packers, Bills and the Broncos, Ravens and Steelers. I know Joe will probably want to talk about that first. For him, Texans and Chargers, with the Chiefs and the Lions standing by on a bye, my friend.
I want to before Chris goes, I want to compliment Mr. Mara, which you all have seen me all year. You haven't seen me really denigrate the Giants. I think anyone who denigrated the Giants this year, other than just unless they were the NFC East opposing
Or
team,
Chris Lardieri.
or well, when you're your own team, you're a little more critical. But
I'm allowed.
let's look at this from an objective standpoint.
Of course.
Someone had asked John Mara about why did you win the last whatever games and you got yourself out of the first round, and his response was, if we had tanked any of these games, I would have fired everyone. Kudos, Mr. Mara. You are a winner. You'll always be a winner, and I hope that your team does well in the future. That is he didn't even hesitate. That right there, folks, is a winner. And yeah, the Giants have been struggling. Yeah, they made some bad decisions, but guess what? That right there, stuff happens sometimes. You can't control it. Sometimes things just don't go your way. But when you have that kind of mentality, I wouldn't worry if I was a Giants fan.
I hope you're right.
You could use it, absolutely. But yes, the fact that they didn't tank, they deserve a lot of credit for that. So, Chris, we do have some matchups coming up this weekend of great interest. The NFL playoffs begin. Where do you want to go and hit up first?
Yeah, I think before the events of the past few days, the Rams Vikings game was the one that intrigued me the most. So a lot remains to be seen if and where it'll be played. But just looking at the way even the lines moved on that, with the Vikings a slight favorite. Going into this, I know McVay said his star players, especially Stafford, needed rest, and they didn't care who they played. But I wonder, second year in a row, he's got a really tough first round matchup in the wild card round against a formidable NFC North opponent. But that game intrigues me. And then two, what on paper should be a good game. It was the first game of the year, that debacle down in Brazil with the bad turf, the Packers and the Eagles. Although I will say, with injury concerns with both starting quarterbacks, I'm not sure what to expect. Part of me wishes they were both healthy, but this is the NFL. It's not a perfect world. But I'm hoping it's kind of a replay of game one, and it's a close game, a shootout. We'll see. But on paper, that looks like another tight matchup.
Fair enough. I do know that Jalen Hurts did practice today, and they said he looks like he's ready to go. Still no word on Jordan Love as far as his effectiveness. I'm sure he'll give it a go, but how effective he will be, it remains to be seen. Joe, leaning into that game, what are your thoughts? I still think right now, I know what Chris talked about as far as the previous entry in Brazil and whatnot, but what are your thoughts about how it might look this weekend? Do you think Green Bay, if Love is able to play effectively, has a chance against the Eagles?
This is probably not the right word, because they did win, 11 games?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Green Bay is stuck a little bit. And it might have been because they're playing in the most competitive division in the NFL, or it might look like that. But losing Watson wasn't good for the year. That kind of hurts, especially because it was towards the end of the game. They probably didn't have to play him, but that's always a hindsight situation. I just think Jordan Love is got some pain that he's dealing with, and you just lost one of your key players. And then when you put that together with where they're going next, I just can't see the Eagles losing. I can't see the Eagles or Detroit losing. I feel very strongly that the NFC Championship game is going to be Detroit and the Eagles. I just don't see how that's not going to happen. So whatever situation the Packers are in, I think is irrelevant. I think the Eagles are going to be ready to play, and I believe they're going to be ready to win this game. And it might be a blowout too.
Okay. Fair enough. Chris, your thoughts on the Bucks and the Commanders? The Commanders have been a great story. A lot of people riding high as far as on Jaden Daniels' train. He has certainly proven to be a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud that I think a lot of the future could be built on with those two guys if they're allowed to go ahead and progress and grow as quarterbacks. But Baker Mayfield is one of the great comeback stories in this league of recent memory. Your thoughts on the sneaky Buccaneers? They're actually a third seed. You had to look around. You're thinking, okay, the way they were playing early in the season, halfway through, good at some weeks, maybe not so good in others. Maybe they'll get like a fifth or a sixth seed or something. No, they're third. They're top three, and they're ready to go against the Commanders.
Yeah, I think the fact that they almost slipped against the Saints and came back and rallied to win the division, I'm kind of hoping that's their mulligan. I think they've got a good shot to beat Washington. I had Daniels on one of our teams, the teams that finished second in fantasy in our league, and I'm a big fan. But this is kind of a team that's playing with house money. They do have some holes, and never thought I'd be saying this. Baker Mayfield, I feel like I've got more faith in him. He did in the playoffs last year, won a home game against a pitiful performance from the Eagles, but then went on the road in Detroit and gave them a scare. So I think I'm going to side with Baker and the boys. Todd Bowles and Dan Quinn, coaching wise, never been hugely impressed with either of them. So I don't think there's any real edge there. But I just like the way Mayfield's playing. I think they've got good momentum. And, with that 3 seed, they're not going to have to go into Detroit until potentially the NFC Championship. So that's also a plus.
This is my yearly complaining that even though the Commanders have a 2-game better record than the Bucks, Joe, they still have to go on the road. That's what happens when you have an antiquated playoff system, in my opinion. I mean, give me a break. 12-5, 10-7. Yet we've seen it before, where sometimes even a below 500 team gets to host a wild card game, as opposed to the team that actually has the better record. But that being aside, Buccaneers at home against the Commanders, it's a tall task for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, rookie quarterbacks. There's been a few that have gotten to conference championships as rookie quarterbacks in recent memory. I think the two I remember vividly are Joe Flacco in 2009 for the 2008 season, and then Big Ben in 2005 for the 2004 season. So it wouldn't be a surprise if Jaden wills his team in a road win. Although I don't think that the Redskins had those defenses of the Steelers in 04 and the Ravens in 08. And that's really what's probably going to make a difference here, is which quarterback is likely going to play worse than the other, and whoever plays better will win. I'm going to pick Baker Mayfield because he's at home and he is playing a rookie quarterback, and pressure and all that. I think I'm going to side with the Bucks on that. They've had a couple of weird games this year. That's why I'm kind of not as confident. I'm not saying the Bucks, but I think a little bit of that experience will go a long way, and I think they'll be able to pull it out at home. Oh, by the way, they face the Eagles after this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna. I kind of want that because the Bucks seem to have the Eagles' number in the playoffs in the
We'll find
past.
out what's going
So I
on.
wonder if that mental part would happen again. I pick teams according to what I think is going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean I want them to win. But I'd like to see. I think it'd be good TV to see the Bucks play Philly. I think that would be good. Good
I
TV.
do know that Jaden Daniels, man, he's getting quite a big fan base. So maybe
And
if
you
he
got to
does
be
win,
careful. You see,
it's
you
a
got to
good
be.
story at least.
Yeah, definitely. And I had picked him at all the quarterbacks to do the best this year because I just felt like he's very composed. He cares about what he does. And I was hard on Caleb Williams because I thought there was some outs off the field stuff that he would do, and I'm like, is this guy really focused on football? But it's nice to be wrong in those situations, and I'll tell you why. I don't want Caleb Williams to fail. I want him to succeed, but you got to show us. And Jaden Daniels, to me, if I was picking as a Bears owner, God help me, working for the Bears, I would have probably picked Jaden Daniels. Now it's going to come down to Jaden Daniels has to do what all great quarterbacks do. They got to be about it, and it looks like he is, and he's got to continue to adapt. Because as soon as you stop adapting, that's where they figure you out, and then you turn into C.J. Stroud this year. Now he didn't have a bad year, but I feel like the NFL media has this interesting love affair of boasting about certain players that have a good year, a good rookie year, and it's like they're the next freaking Frank Sinatra of football. I'm like, God, just relax. Relax a second. Let this thing play out. That these guys are not Patrick Mahomes. They're not Josh Allen. They're not Lamar Jackson, which I've been down on Lamar in terms of him being an MVP this year. This year, he's an MVP. Those other years he won the MVP, I didn't believe they were. This year, he's the MVP in my book. He really earned it the last 3 weeks. I mean, he really stuck it to the people who didn't believe that he was. And if he goes on, and I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore beats KC and goes on to win the Super Bowl. Shoot, you're looking at. He's probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer anyways, but he pretty much stamps that sucker 100% instead of 99.9.
So the other game in the National Football Conference, the NFC, was going to be the Rams, as we talked about before, Chris, facing off against the Vikings. We think it's going to be played in LA, but not 100% sure. Obviously, that's pending. The league is monitoring the situation with the fires, but it is going to be taking place on the 13th. Your thoughts? This one, to me, is not as clear cut as many might think it would be. I think the Vikings, still, again, a team that has a much better record than the Rams, but yet they have to go on the road. Chris, I'm sorry. I've been saying it for years, and I still could say it for years. This is just ridiculous how a team that is 4 games better has to go on the road. They lost that one game against the Lions, and it's cost them with a trip to LA
Yeah,
or Arizona.
completely agree with you. And people forget these teams faced off earlier this year on a Thursday night. I believe that was the one with the no decapitation penalty against Darnold late in the game, and the Rams pulled it out. But I think it all hinges on 2 things: which Stafford we get. Is he banged up? Is he even going to play up to his potential from earlier in the season? And which Sam Darnold do we get? And I know the Lions really scheme well against him this past Sunday night, but every time I seem to doubt Sam Darnold, he steps back up and has a big performance. So I think he can make or break the game here. The Rams defense, they really rebuilt it on the fly, losing Aaron Donald to retirement. They draft Verse, who's likely to be a defensive rookie of the year. They turn that side of the ball around, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, do we have the old Sam Darnold or the new Sam Darnold? And I don't have a crystal ball, nor have I ever been able to figure out Sam Darnold. But I think that's right there is going to tell you who wins that game and moves along.
What about you, Joe? Again, the Vikings getting rewarded for their loss and just barely missing out on the number one spot. They get rewarded by being sent to LA or Arizona to face off against the Rams. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's not as clear cut. You're basing a lot off of Sam Darnold. Do you think this rags to riches story? Another like Baker Mayfield before him. This rags to riches story about a backup or a guy that was big name coming out of college, didn't quite get it done as the first time around as a starter, became a journeyman backup, all of a sudden gets the right opportunity, and let's see what happens with Sam Darnold in the playoffs.
I actually had this as my upset of the week.
Really?
Until the fires. Now I don't really know too much. I'm almost positive they're gonna play this game in Arizona. And what that does in terms of an advantage now is changing. And that could swing towards Minnesota a little bit. Minnesota plays in a dome. I know the Rams, what is it, half dome, whatever. But more often than not, and again, I don't even know if that will matter anyways, really. But sometimes when you feel like you're at home, when you're not, maybe it might be better. And I think AZ has that advantage for the Vikings. As far as Sam Darnold, I'm always doubting Sam Darnold. I doubted him last week, and you saw what happened. And I hate to be like that, but it's still Sam Darnold. Until he wins those kind of games, it's going to be difficult to feel bad for someone who was second pick and played for how many teams? 3?
Quite a few.
Yeah. I just, and hey, I'm happy. McDonald's the quarterback whisperer. That's why Chris's boy went to Minnesota. Daniel Jones, maybe he wanted to rub off on that genie a little bit.
JJ McCarthy doesn't get injured, could change the whole series.
Right. And I'm not high on JJ McCarthy either. I thought he was picked. That guy is a third round pick to me. But that's a discussion for a different day. I'm going to stick with the Rams. But them going to Arizona likely is going to maybe bridge that a little bit less. And I think it'll be a good game either way.
Did you want to add something on, Chris?
No, I just laughed. I had a good laugh about that.
Sorry about
Daniel
that.
Jones.
I was thinking about saying it. Did I say Daniel? Did I say it all the way, or did I just say Jones? I don't know, man. I don't want to give you. I didn't want to give you.
Say Danny Dimes.
Yeah, I didn't want to give you PTSD. I'm sorry. I should have. I was trying to make a point. That's all, and it makes sense because Darnold's there. He's kind of had a resurrection a little bit, and I don't know how that's going to play out in Minnesota, but I'm glad I'm not the coach there to make that decision.
So in the AFC, you've got the first off on the East Coast. We don't know what the weather could impact this game, but the Broncos heading into Buffalo to face off against the Bills. I still have a feeling this is probably going to be an inclement game, which is great for viewing, but not great for playing. Kind of makes it anyone's ball game, but the Bills are been used to it, and Denver, they live in a cold climate, so it shouldn't affect them too much. Chris, your thoughts on the Broncos and the Bills this weekend?
Yeah, I know everyone's going to write off the Broncos and say they got, kind of, I don't want to necessarily say back in, but, a team with a weak schedule. They beat who they should have and didn't beat anyone of substance. But this is a Sean Payton coach team. I put nothing past him. And let's face it, the last first rounds 2 years in a row, the Bills, I don't want to say have underperformed, but they haven't blown out their opponents like everyone thought. First, the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson as a backup, and then last year against Joe Steelers with Mason Rudolph. So I think it'll be a little more competitive game than people anticipate. And, Denver being a cold weather team, I know it's practically Canada up there, but I don't think they're going to be intimidated by that. And, Yeah, we'll see at the end of the day. I think Josh Allen will be too much for the Broncos, but I don't think this will be the pushover that most are predicting.
Joe, do you feel the same way, or do you feel like Josh Allen might run free with a lot of options against Denver?
I think Buffalo will have this in hand. In the NFL, you never know if something's going to be a blowout because the cynic in me sometimes feels like there's some manipulation that goes on with timely penalties when there's a 14-0 score and that team that's 14-0 doesn't get a call and all of a sudden they got to punt it and then the other team gets the ball, has the momentum, blah, blah, blah. However, I don't know if that's necessarily the case here. I think the Buffalo Bills are on a mission. I know McDermott is the coach there. Anything bad can happen with him every now and then. But I'm picking the Bills comfortable, at least in the end. I do want to say this since Chris mentioned Sean Payton. He's my coach of the year, and I thought Bo Nix wasn't going to be a good player either. And not only did he play good, he played amazing this year. So kudos to Sean Payton. Kudos to what they're running over there because Sean got a lot of crap. Sean got a lot of crap for what happened with Russell Wilson because people are in love with players for whatever reason and they can't differentiate football and the person, right? And again, I thought he was still kind of hard on Russell because he's a nice guy, right? But this is football, folks. You need to get your feelings out, okay? I doubt Sean Payton wants to go find Russell and, hound him, right? It's about football. It's about performance. It's a hard game and relax. So props to the Broncos this year. I think they played as well as they could. It's nice to see two rookie quarterbacks being in the playoffs, and that's always a good sign for the NFL. And however, I don't see Josh Allen is on a mission, folks. If he gets the MVP or not, matter of fact, I'd actually like to see him not get the MVP because it might piss him off more. And I secretly would love to see the Bills win it all. As much as I love my family and I know they're Detroit fans, I just want to see the city of Buffalo win a Super Bowl. I just think it'd be nice for them.
After so much heartache.
It
yeah.
is, yes.
I can't say I blame you. Josh Allen, yeah, right there.
And I usually don't do that, guys. Like I am enamored a little bit.
He's won me a league on more than one occasion already.
Yeah,
so
I'm enamored with the three-peat thing. Believe me, I am enamored with it. I want to see a three-peat Super Bowl winner because I love greatness. However, if KC doesn't do it, can't do the three-peat, then I'd love to see Buffalo win it all. And there's a lot of really good stories. I think there's going to be a lot of good stories this year, whoever wins. I think it's going to be a really good story.
So after that, right, as far as what's going on there, your Steelers, Joe, I'll let you start off with this one. The Ravens, we talked about a little bit with Lamar Jackson. They've got that powerful, high-octane offense with the Steelers coming up. So your thoughts, my friend, as the Steelers head into Baltimore, do you think they have a chance, or do you think the Baltimore Ravens, after the Steelers, you talk about a team backing into the playoffs, Joe, much love to you, my friend, but the Steelers have been backing into the playoffs.
Yeah, Mike Blue Balls Tomlin. I call him Blue
Here we
Balls.
go.
Yeah, it's quite comical how you get blowback, and when I'm talking in those conversations, I'm the only one that's watched every single blue ball game that's been coached. I'm telling you guys this isn't one of those things where, oh well, we're not getting what we want, so we blame the coach. Folks, if you really, really need to know what the issues are, you have to watch the games, and I'll explain a little tidbit here. This is what will be a future Hall of Fame coach, which is just absolutely asinine. A guy who can't manage his timeouts, a guy who can't manage end of the game games, a guy that can't get a damn challenge call right more than once out of every 10. Like, I mean, he is horrid in those sequences. Timeouts are horrible. Time management. I mean, he's just horrible. And what is the theme with that team? I'm not, I want to love everybody, right? I want to support this. But how is it that you've had 7 diva receivers? What does that tell you about the leader of that team? It's I understand if it's 1 or 2, but every receiver, there's always some player that's causing an issue, and you can't solve this issue. Why? What is your deal? If it's not George Pickens, if it's not Martavis Bryant, if it's not Antonio Brown, at what point does it become a leadership issue? The voice needs to change. It's 2025. The Steelers need a new leader. And Mike Tomlin, even at his best, was never more than a C-plus coach. He got his ass saved by Bill Cowher's boys defense, and he got saved by Big Ben. And at that time in the mid 2010s, the best receiver in the league for at least 5 years and the best running back in the league for at least 3 years, and they couldn't win one damn Super Bowl. Oh, well, it was the defense. Well, isn't that what Mike Tomlin's good for? Isn't that what Belichick did when he took care of the defense, didn't he? He won a Super Bowl against the Rams a few years back. Still, after all that, can we see something different? Can we see something that works? Nothing. Doesn't matter what decision this guy makes. It's not going to work. Prediction, Saturday, Ravens destroy the Steelers, and hopefully the noise gets a little bit hotter for him to get traded. Unfortunately, he has a no-trade clause. I don't know why the hell the Steelers would give a coach a no-trade clause. That is absolutely stupid on their part. But the Steelers organization need to start to come to grips with who they want to be here the next decade. Are you wanting to just be a winning team on the record and just keep getting your ass kicked in every first-round playoff run? Oh, well, we don't have a quarterback. Well, you had a quarterback for a decade. You had a legit Hall of Fame quarterback for a decade, and you won 3 freaking playoff games. They lose on Saturday, that'll be 3 playoff wins in 14 seasons. Am I going to still go back and talk about 08? We talked about this on the Laker channel. We talked about this are we going to still think about 2020? Guys, it's 2025. You need to wake up. Enough of this already. And these are storied franchises. If I was a Milwaukee Bucks fan, maybe I wouldn't give a damn. But this is the Steelers and this is the Lakers. We demand excellence. At least a chance at excellence instead of mediocrity or celebrating mediocrity, which is what they've been.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football with Joe Soro and Chris Ardieri. I'm Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for listening. We will be touching on a Lakers snack pack where we'll talk about the fires, how it's affecting Los Angeles sports, including the Lakers' possible game tomorrow against the Charlotte Hornets, which could be postponed. But Chris, it is Joe Steelers facing off against the Ravens, a tall task, especially for a team that backed into its way into the postseason.
Yeah, I agree. On paper, the Ravens should knock them around, but whenever these two teams meet up, it's closer than it should be. It's a slugfest. It can be ugly at times, and I expect nothing different this time. Although I do give the edge to Baltimore. I think with everyone being down on the Steelers right now, it wouldn't surprise me if they show up and play. But at the end of the day, I don't think they have the horses on offense to go toe to toe with Lamar in that side of the ball. So I think it'll be a typical black and blue AFC North matchup again here in January.
So it looks like, well, maybe like I said, if they keep it competitive, Joe, anything will happen. But yeah, it's not a good way to start the playoffs heading into Baltimore like that, especially with the way they've been playing. The Texans and the Chargers, the last of the list, and the winner of that game meets the Chiefs. This one is really hard for me to pick. I'm going to probably say, since it's on the road, I'm going to go ahead. Sorry, Chargers. I'm going to go with the Texans on that. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable either which way. Both of these quarterbacks have not. They've been better at better seasons. I'll just say that. But Harbaugh has worked his magic and gotten the Chargers to an 11-6 record. Chris, your thoughts on this game? Again, it's one that's very hard for me to figure out. The Texans haven't looked quite as strong as they did last year. The Chargers, even with Aber not looking super, they've still got the job done, and they're facing off against the Texans.
Yeah, when this game was announced, I thought going in the Chargers would be a pretty live road team, and apparently Vegas agreed with me, installing
They're
them as the favorite.
2.5 points
So
right now.
yeah, so here's what I think: the Texans have limped into the playoffs. They lost two wide receivers throughout the year. They're down to Nico Collins. C.J. Stroud has not looked the same. Don't know if it's a sophomore jinx or the fact that his weapons are dropping around him, but the end of the day, I just like what Jim Harbaugh's done. You could say what you will about him and his recruiting tactics, but as an NFL head coach, he turns teams around. He turns them around quickly. And in the playoffs, unless he's facing off against his brother or Tom Coughlin, I think you got to give him the edge. So I favor the Chargers here.
Joe, any thoughts on this game? Again,
Yeah, I trust.
I think it's going to be a low scoring slugfest on that one.
I don't have a feel on what it would be, but I would definitely pick the Chargers to win by 3. I could see them winning 20-17 in a game that might be more towards their side of the kind of positiveness. This is another example of what happened. So Tank Dell, before he got injured, he was phenomenal last year, much like C.J. Stroud was. And then, of course, they come into this year. And this is why I don't know necessarily if it's because he's lost his weapons, because I think I was surprised at how kind of mediocre Tank Dell had was playing this year. And when those things tend to happen, when you have someone who played so well the year before, and all of a sudden they're like non-existent the following year, and they're young players, they're not old players, and they should be getting better, right? Or at least sustaining what they had the year before. That is usually a coaching issue. So DeMarco Ryans is another guy that for some reason people want to anoint someone because they have an amazing first season or a run, and now they're the greatest thing that's ever been created. Guys, relax. What did your favorite quarterback, Gerald, say? Relax. Right? You remember him, right?
Yep.
We're going to be remembering him because I think this might be his last year. And this proves it. This setup has proved it. And football is a hard business. It's a hard business. It's very, very, very easy to get complacent when you start smelling your own you-know-what. And while the Texans still made a nice playoff run, they're probably in the worst division in football. Would you all agree?
I'd have it.
AFC South, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So again, competition to me matters, and that's a whole different discussion. And you've heard me talk about this on our Lakers show, Gerald. Competition matters. I'm not going to be impressed with playoff appearances and finals appearances, especially if you've gotten less, I guess, resistance. So in the end, I trust Jim Harbaugh and I trust Herbert more than I trust C.J. Stroud and DeMarco Ryans in this situation. I can see the Chargers winning by at least 3, probably by 7, maybe like a 27-17 to be real. I could see them doing that in Houston, and we get a chance to see Houston. Get a chance to see LA against Kansas City, right?
There you go.
I think that's a better matchup for TV and for us.
So with that, it is, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. I know the Bengals are quite ticked off about how the Chiefs just let them roll over on that last game. But Chris, I know that you and your awesome son have got some things that you guys got to go ahead and talk about on your show. So please give it a shout out, my friend, before we head on out.
Yeah, thanks. Domination Sports Nation, wherever you get your podcasts. Most recent episode, talking why is this NFL season so mediocre? Got a lot of mileage off of that. Also, talk some college football playoff. Our next episode next week, we'll wrap up the college semifinals and wild card weekend and preview another great week of upcoming football with the division rounds and inevitably the NCAA championship. So, lots to talk about there. The NBA's heating up, and before you know it, when all this football's over, pitchers and catchers will be reporting come February. So we've got some baseball on the horizon.
I'm going to put it in the chat. Please go ahead and support Chris and Dom today at the Domination Sports Nation. They do a great job covering the world of sports. If you want to supplement the Lakers Fast Break with some good listening and inside sports fantasy football, there's also the Domination Sports Nation wherever you get your podcasts. Well, Joe, looking forward to a good football weekend as well. Hopefully, we will get all these games going off on time, on schedule. But any last thoughts on the games, college or pro football, before we head over to the Lakers snack break?
Well, Chris had mentioned how the bit where the season's been pretty mediocre in terms of, and I have to agree. A lot of the weeks I was looking at the schedule, I'm like, these games suck. And of course, what did that mean in the end? Nothing. They had the highest ratings ever, right? Pretty much. So what's going on here? What is it about the NFL?
On more mediums than ever now.
Yeah, they've gotten as close to flag football as you can get. The teams suck. The games suck most of the weeks. How the hell are they doing this? I don't know. I don't get it. I'd like to know. I'd like an answer.
It is the only professional sport that is the clear number one in both gambling and fantasy. And I know people argue internationally, you've got soccer and things like that, but you ever try and bet on a soccer game? It's not fun. So that's what it is. And like I point to that awful Bengals Cowboys Monday night game, which came down to a blunder that gave me flashbacks to Leon Lett, and the Bengals end up pulling it out. And Dom and I are like, we're in our hotel room back in Jersey watching it, and we're just watching it because nothing else is on, and we're getting ready for bed because the game's on so late. And the next day, I hear it got, I think, like 15 or 18 million viewers, and I'm like, all right, Dom, that settles it. People are just watching because there's a lot of fantasy football, either playoffs or heading into the playoffs or seeding, and that game probably had a lot of ramifications for a lot of fantasy teams. There's got to be no other way.
Well, with that, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Please go ahead and support Chris Lardieri and his son Dominic Lardieri on their venue, wherever you get your podcast, called the Domination Sports Nation as well. So if you got anything for us football-wise, please leave it in the comments below, or you can hit me up, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com. But for Joe Sorrow and Chris Sardieri, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. Coming up next is a snack pack. So from all of us to all of you, stay safe, stay healthy, stay humble, and also catch your share of Inside Sports Fantasy Football.
Sure you're not going to get a copyright infringement on this picture shit?
This one's set public domain. I've run it like several times now. Seems to be good.
Good. I hope they don't pull some BS when this has 10,000 subs.
There you go. Absolutely. But well, let's try this one now.
Wonder who that person is that's eating. I just realized the jersey number on that is 46.
There you go.
I don't know any 46 in Laker history.
No, 47 though, because that's the year they moved from Detroit. I actually got a jersey from that during Christmas, so I got to wear it one of these days.
The Detroit Gems. People don't know that the original name of the LA Lakers is the Detroit Gems.
Gems.
So
That's
just
right.
like me, the Lakers came from Detroit.
And there you have it. It is, of course, the
It
Lakers
was
snack pack.
It was density.
Yep.
It was
But
density.
Joe Soro, along with me, Gerald Glassford, thanks again for watching this thing. Again, our thoughts are with those affected by the fires in Southern California. And with today's cancellation of the Kings game against Calgary, all eyes turn to tomorrow on whether or not the NBA will do the same with the Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets. So we are monitoring it. If you want to go ahead and catch us on Twitter at Lakers Fast Break, we will immediately retweet out any decisions that are made in regards to whether the game is a go or not. So please go ahead and stay tuned to at Lakers Fast Break. Even if I'm on the road or I'm at CES tomorrow, doesn't matter. I'll still be able to retweet it instantly right there for you. So go ahead and check that out indeed. But Joe, I understand, JJ has had a rough time. I don't want to be on him too much. I think we said what we said in regards to that. I know his family and is safe. I know his home in the Pacific Palisades is not. I know that there's a lot of players, stars, families affected by the fires that lived in the Malibu and Pacific Palisades area. I know that the Clippers have given Kawhi Leonard, who just came back, and now a definite leave of absence so he can tend to his family in regards to these fires. Some serious stuff, man, and we have no idea if we're going to be able to have a game tomorrow with the Lakers and the Hornets.
Yeah, I doubt we will. If they cancel the Kings game, they're going to cancel the Laker game. So I don't see. I don't know when they would redo the game, but they'll have to figure it out. The fires. The fires right now are not necessarily getting worse, at least from what I'm hearing, but they're still just bad. It's probably going to take, I don't know, a week. So I don't know when they're going to decide to do something other than we know that the winds have stopped. The crazy winds have stopped. It's pretty much going to stop altogether tomorrow, according to the weather report. Then they can start putting some water in this thing and seeing what they can do to stop it. It's it's just not my wheelhouse. I have no idea how any of that works, even though I've been involved with these fire things the last freaking 20 years. It's like nonstop in Southern California. No one seems to be able to figure out how to get this thing going. Matter of fact, last year, Gerald, we had a fire that was brewing around where we were, and they were talking about us getting evacuated, and then it started raining. And it started raining, and sucker went out.
And that's part of the problem because it hasn't rained. I know in Las Vegas, this is the second longest drought we've had as far as no rain. And I know that Los Angeles has suffered the same effects as far as having no rain, which has only made this worse. And the high winds, I know you talked about the Samo winds and whatnot, which are traditionally a strong 20 to 30. But when they go up to 60, 70, and 80 miles an hour, Joe, it carried those embers all around.
Yeah, this was the worst time to have an alleged cigarette go on dry weeds. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how these things start. I really don't. If it was lightning starting something, okay, that makes sense. We don't really have a lot of lightning here, really. But how is it that this thing started from these kind of winds, and why wasn't there any prep? I don't know. I don't know what these people do. I don't know what this is about. It's an area that has been constantly hit with fires. Malibu is a fire freaking magnet. Why hasn't this thing been figured out by now? I know nature is destructive. I know you can't stop nature, but I'm sorry. You got to be able to start getting something going before things get bad. I just we've put people on the moon. We have technology that can turn I don't know, a robot into a human. I don't know what the hell they have these days, but I don't know. I don't think our proactiveness is ever there. It's just very, very frustrating. It all started with the New Orleans thing with the levees. And I remember talking to some people that lived in Baton Rouge and Metairie and New Orleans, and man, they told me some of the decisions that those people over there that they made, and how they never really focused on it. It was always, oh well, you know, we don't need to worry about that stuff. Well, folks, you got to worry about that stuff.
I tell you what, when I went to CES today, Joe, to save myself some money, I parked at the Fashion Show Mall right across the street, literally right across the street. It's from where all these reporters are doing their coverage. Last week of where the Cybertruck blew up last week. I'm just telling you where I parked, literally right across the street from it, and it's like it never happened. They cleaned up the area, right back to the valet. People come in and out, so the same thing could just happen all again.
Bloodhound, it rained a lot here the first 4 months of 2023, and it rained a lot at the beginning of 2024. The reason why I remember is because my business had to get shut down most of those months. I counted a total of 5 months, no joke, in 17 months where it was raining all the time. It was raining. It was raining, more rain than I can remember. The last big rain like that I remembered was, I think it was mid 2000s, and before then it was 1997. I remember when I was in San Diego in 1997. It rained so much. There was this one little lake there called Lake Hodges up in North San Diego that got filled, and it looked like a lake. Now it still looks like just a swamp with no water on it, right? And dried weeds. It's just this issue is it's just constant. It's a constant issue of something. I don't know enough to argue what or where, but Jesus, at what point are you going to? You can't stop it. I guess you can't stop a tornado or hurricane. I understand that, but houses near fire issues, isn't there something we can do there, Gerald? That's something on the ground that you could figure out.
You would think, but they don't even have enough
they
water.
can see black holes in the 400 billion miles away, but they can't figure out how to keep things moist or something. Or they're worried about some kind of fish or something that they don't want to mess with, or some kind of cockroach. I don't know. I just don't know what this is. I wish I did.
As do I, my friend. Why they can't do something better to fight these fires? I know that they run out of water several places along, as far as the hydrants. They're only supposed to be able to take care of small localized fires, but when it comes to a larger fire such as that, a lot of these places just had no chance. They just had no chance. And again, if you are affected by the fires, our thoughts are with you. And if you are in or around this area, please stay safe, because we want you around, hopefully watching and listening to us going forward. So please stay safe. And again, if the Lakers do get the official word that and the NBA says, you know what, we're gonna postpone it, we'll retweet it out there, and then we'll cover it tomorrow night on a snack pack or NBA observations or something like that. We'll go ahead and cover it tomorrow night as well. So just want to keep you guys in tune of what's going on. But Joe, that still, I understand that some may have been distracted by it, but that still doesn't make up for the fact that the Lakers got absolutely throttled last night against the Dallas Mavericks, against a team that did not have Luka and Kyrie, that had lost, I believe, 4 or 5 in a row beforehand.
And Gafford.
Yeah, they didn't have Gafford as well. Yes, great point. Just couldn't get it done.
We might have hit this before. These guys play like they're a 1 seed already, and they take breaks.
JJ said they were tired. They played tired.
They're tired, huh? They're tired?
Mm-hmm.
How many games have they played?
36, including last night.
Tired, huh?
Mhm.
Okay. Tired. That's nice. It's nice to know. I saw the video. I wanted you to mention it. I wanted to talk about it.
Mhm.
So let me put this to you a little bit. Let me put this to you here. I'm paying you 60, 50, 30, 40, 20, 19, 14 million dollars. Hell, $8 million. And you're in game 36 of 82. And I ask you, what happened last night? And you go, I'm tired. How do you think I'm gonna respond to that? Obviously, the people that they work for don't give a damn. They're coward pussies. That's what they are. But if I was in charge of this thing, first of all, this thing wouldn't be happening if I was in charge. So it's kind of a moot point. But let's just say I did. Let's say I was. And somebody brought up the Patriots thing, and I'm going to correlate that with this. If you're tired and you've got state of the art up the yin yang all over the place, and you're supposed to be the best, you're supposed to be the badasses, the unleashing of who they are will be very, very vivid. I would tell them exactly who they are and how weak they are. Unfortunately, I'm not in that position. And to correlate it with the Patriots fan, I just found it comical that people don't learn the lessons. All respect, with all due respect to Coach Mayo, that guy should have never been a head coach in the NFL. I don't. They were talking about how he was baby Belichick and all that. I just, my brain. I hate being like this. I really do. But it's the amount of stupidity and the amount of not knowing anything. And then imagine those same idiots and the people around them, or the people that I want to be in the positive, will then come back at you and say you don't know what you're talking about. Like, what is the decision making? And Bob Kraft has had a pretty phenomenal coaching career. You have to give him credit for what he did, hiring Belichick, allowing Belichick to make certain calls. Belichick gets a little bit of negativity because of the Brady ending. I'm like, by the way, folks, Belichick is the one that decided to not play the newly signed Drew Bledsoe for Tom Brady. So if you're going to sit there and pull the BS about how, well, he only won because of Brady, well, you would have never saw Brady if it wasn't for Belichick. You could go look that up. That was you want to see controversy? Imagine that. Drew Bledsoe at that time was like Peyton Manning at that time, in a way. And imagine saying, we're going to sit Peyton Manning because we think this other guy is going to let us win more. And then he went on to win a Super Bowl. So, decision-making, those who are not qualified to do what needs to get done, maybe they were qualified before, sure. But it doesn't look like they're qualified now. They're qualified right now for being a bunch of pussies. Tired? Really? You're tired in game 37? You're tired and you didn't even play Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, or Gafford, and you're still tired? You guys should have rolled over these guys in 3 quarters and sat the 4th quarter because you were tired. Now, seriously, Gerald, think about that for a second. Imagine if somebody saw what I just said. Imagine if JJ Redick put us on TV right now and said, look what this guy said about you. What do you think most of them are going to say?
I think most of them are going to say that it's still no excuse.
Who's this guy? He's a scumbag. He's a bum. He's a nobody. Right?
Yep.
Right. That's how you know right out the gate. If I sucked ass at something and somebody called me out on it, the first reaction is, what the hell did I do? But these are children. Most of them are children. They're not going to take accountability because they have the head non-accountable player on their team. They all draw from that. That's how it works. That's why when I said Popovich yelling at Tim Duncan in practice sets everything right. Belichick yelling at Tom Brady in practice sets everyone right. Well, if you Al Davis everything, you see what happens there. If you Jerry Jones everything, you see how things go there. If LeBron is able to have the team draft his no talent son, what do you have to worry about? You don't have to worry about anything. There's no accountability. There's no excellence that's in the decision making. It's mediocrity and pampering and taking care of your players. Isn't the money enough to take care of your players?
You would
That
think.
should be enough, right? And of course, respect within the organization and keeping open communication. But does that mean you're going to go and I don't know, put a allowance for your mother to go buy clothes? What do you think that's going to do to the rest of the team? By the way, that's Juan Soto in New York. The fact that he's going to get paid at least $800 million when this deal is done, and the fact that he made the Mets give them an allowance for his mother's clothes. If that isn't, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say anything else.
Bloodhound, that Dallas loss was just awful. Absolutely. I think that if the Lakers are just short of getting to any type of spot in the standings, whether it's just in the play-in or missing the play-in or just missing the top 4 seeds or what have you, I think we can point to that game. I know a lot of people point to the Orlando game or people point to the game in Atlanta. I'm going to point to this one as a game that, is you just got to get it done. There's absolutely no excuse. And I know somebody I just answered, Metal. Big shout out to you, Metal. Appreciate you watching. But Kenny Smith is offering, his alternative on it. And I'm just like, this is a guy who gets paid by TNT to run to a display monitor. I can't believe there is an excuse. There's absolutely no excuse. I mean, if Dallas were to lose against a team that didn't have LeBron or AD in the lineup, our friends on one of the great Mavs podcasts that we have been on before, their fan base would say there's just no excuse. It's just absolutely no excuse. You have to win these games when they're presented to you. When they're served up for you like that, there's absolutely no excuse. And I understand what's going on, real life stuff. Again, JJ's home has not been verified as being burnt up or anything like that. I do know his family has been evacuated, so that may have been on. I'm sure that was on his mind. Maybe some of these other players had some effect on it too. But again, you're playing the game, Joe, and you're paid millions of dollars to do so. I understand we're all human beings at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, when you don't have Luke and Kyrie, you should not be winning games.
This is not a one-time issue with their focus and their pussiness. If this was a surprise that we hadn't seen before several times, I'd be like, whoa, man, something was wrong here. And even if it wasn't, even if there's nothing wrong, let's say the Lakers are sitting at 26-10 and they lose a game like this, it probably doesn't bother me as much.
No, but they're right in that gaggle. They're right in that mix.
Because now they're they've been hammering it. They've been playing their rear ends off. They're winning all the games they should win, and they're on the right path. And then they have that little dud that happens in an 82-game season. But this was not a game that I have not seen before. It's just it looks worse because the top stars weren't playing. Because you could look at it like the Boston game last year when the Lakers went to Boston without LeBron and AD and won that game. You can compare that to a degree, but not really, because Boston was still 40-9. There's a difference, folks. Context. What did I say about context? And this is the part where people get weird when they hear things they don't want to hear. They start looking at excuses on why you're wrong or why you're over exaggerating things. Guys, I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, okay? You need to wake up. And there's differences between this loss and that loss. there are differences. You have to look at the situation. Just like when you talk about, ooh, this guy is playing really well this week. Well, or let's use Bo Nix since we're talking football today. Bo Nix throws 4 touchdown passes, almost has a perfect quarterback rating against the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Not the downgrade his play, good for him, but he played against the third stringers. There's a difference between that and if they had the Chiefs at full force, he probably doesn't have those numbers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scenarios here. And we watch every game. We know this team's personality. And it's not just the Lakers, really. It's the NBA and the just the athletes as a whole. They've become softer and have scaled back on their maturity even more than they had even before. Basketball players have always been divas. Basketball players have always done things to fire their coaches or to have issues with their coaches where the team had to make a decision on getting rid of the coach. That doesn't change. But to this degree, to where they can control a franchise with it, that part is when it gets bad. And the Lakers have that. The Lakers have no accountability on this team because the head guys on this team carry no accountability. They will get rewarded for doing what they're doing, and they will continue to get rewarded for what they're doing. And why should anybody else do anything different? Why isn't Austin Reeves yelling at everybody in the huddle while they're sucking ass? Why isn't there anybody out there going, "You guys all play like a bunch of bitches"? How come you don't have that? No one does that anymore because they're worried about, who's this guy? Oh, who's that guy? Okay, well, enjoy your money. Enjoy your money. Whatever it is that you make, I'm sure you can keep buying shit with your life and enjoy the publicity, enjoy the whatever fame that you like at your convenience, of course. And then, of course, we're the idiots that keep watching it and keep lining their pockets. So in the end, we're part of the problem. We'll always be a part of the problem.
We will, as long as we keep supporting it, as long as we keep doing things to channel that enthusiasm, as long as we continue to do the show. In essence, doing this show helps perpetuate that problem, Joe. I mean, anything that we do to support the Lakers, we buy their gear, we go to the games, we watch the games, talk about the games. Anything we're doing in support of that is, in essence, perpetuating it, just like you said.
Well, what I will say, if it matters, is I haven't bought any Laker gear in a while now.
Yeah, I can't say the same.
And I have not gone to a game in 2 years, which is the longest drought I've had probably since I moved to Southern California. So I have refused to. The only time I've gone to the crypt wasn't really at the crypt; it was outside at Lakers. I'm sorry, LA Live for an event. I won't support. I won't pay money to go watch. The last game I went to was Pau Gasol's retirement. Yeah, that was what 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, and it was a beautiful night by one of the most elegant, beautiful players that I've ever watched play basketball, who changed a legacy, who changed an era of basketball just because he arrived and he put everything in this team that anybody could want, anyone could hope for, and those are the things I live for. Those are the things. That's what you congratulate. That's what you support. That's what the Lakers are supposed to be about. And unfortunately, we've lost a little bit of that.
That we have, my friend. But again, with the Lakers, their record right now is 20-16. They're still sixth placed in Western Conference. The Clippers have been seeing the same fate as the Lakers, so they fall a half game back. Minnesota still lurking. They're now 1-2, but then they lose 2, then they win 3, then they lose 3. Right now they are at 19-17. Golden State is at 18-18. Truly gone off the rails for them. And San Antonio Spurs, I think we're going to see maybe it started a little bit of a downfall for them. They lost tonight, so they're 18-19. Let's hope that continues that downfall when they play the Lakers, which those games might be in jeopardy as well. Remember that the Lakers play the Spurs twice at home. At least that's scheduled for now. We'll have to see what happens. But Joe, the Surging Kings, they've won 5 in a row under Doug Christie. I know that people are still not taking them seriously, but sometimes it just takes that coaching change. They're back in the mix of things. They're tied for 10th with the San Antonio Spurs. So who knows? Even the Phoenix Suns, if they ever get their act together, although the infighting and you see what's going on with Bradley Beal now being coming off the bench after the good win in Philadelphia. They lost the next night. So, yeah, Joe, if you get on a losing streak of 3 or 4 games, you could find yourself out of the playoff bracketing really quick.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have mediocre basketball. You have that. The danger in that is you create this mediocrity so that everyone has a chance and everyone is involved. All the useless NBA teams, which is about half of them, that apparently the league wants to give a chance to. This is what you have. This is what you have: mediocrity, where you look at the standings and you see pretty much top 10 teams are what, other than maybe this year's the top 2 teams in the East and West, excluding them, everything else is pretty much within a few games. And this is what happens when you do this. And this is apparently what they like. I don't. I couldn't care less about what the Charlotte Hornets or New Orleans or Atlanta or Orlando or any of these teams. No one gives 2 shits whether these teams are playing well or not, except the cities that they're in. And that's a fact. The NBA built its legacy, its iconic legacy, on dynasties. You notice when the Dream Team came to the Olympics in 1992, what happened to the NBA? It exploded. Before then, they had college kids. No one gave a shit about college kids. They gave a shit about the ultimate dynasty, the ultimate dream team. That's what basketball is. Dynasties and superstars. If you're going to do it that way. Keep doing what works. But maybe these guys have gambling in their pocket too, and they want to make everybody else happy. Everybody wants to make everyone happy. Everyone. And they're trying to change that in baseball, because apparently they got to make billionaires happy too. Sort of. Because I don't think a lot of those billionaires want to spend money. But the media or the word out there is there needs to be a cap. There needs to be a ceiling. There needs to be a floor. Blah, 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 blah. How about this? How about your billion-dollar owner that the team you support spend some money? Because they're all billionaires. Well, Joe, the Dodgers have a TV contract. Did you hear what I just said? All the owners are billionaires. Just because one team might have a little bit more here, they're still all billionaires. Why aren't they spending the money? We're going to take the money. You know how much $1 billion is? Do you have any idea how much $1 billion is? One? And most of these guys have like 2. Stop crying. Stop whining. Your team sucks because your owner sucks. And our owner sucks too, by the way. And they have a cap too, and they have all this aprons and dishwashers and fridges and all this garbage that you have to put into a contract to trade it for some other asshole. Like, I mean, seriously, at what point did it get to this? These guys actually sat down and listened to these idiot lawyers create this stupid collective bargaining agreement where you have to be a brain surgeon and an orthopedic surgeon to make a trade.
One of the things I want to mention, Aaronetics talked about the San Diego can get a TV deal, lawsuit or not. That's a mess going on with the Padres right now. Okay, you've lost your football team. You've lost your basketball team. Could the Padres be next after what's going on there, Joe?
No.
Okay.
No,
I think they're going to stay, but still.
I was talking to Empire Jeff about this. The secession process is pretty pretty ironclad from what he told me about the brothers taking over. So this might be just some kind of settlement thing that this lady's doing, possibly. But word is that the brothers will eventually win out, and they'll control the team. As far as the TV deal that Aaron Onik was talking about, this isn't just a Padre issue, Aaron. This is a I think 20 of the baseball teams had an issue with. I think it was with Diamond. Was it Diamond? They keep changing
Yeah.
the freaking name. Diamond one day, Bally's one day,
Bally's,
Fox. Which one is it now? Is it FanDuel now?
Yeah, I think it's FanDuel. You
Yeah.
know what they
So
should have done? They should have just pitched. Okay, what did like a Peacock or Netflix, Paramount Plus, somebody, one of those streaming services just should just come in, bought it up, and said, you know what, we're just going to show it on our streaming service. That would have solved the whole problem.
I'm worried that there's not going to be an audience. I think they would have done that by now. I don't think they want I don't think there's an audience that would say, "Oh, you're going to make us now pay for this app to watch the Padres." Maybe they might not go with that in San Diego. San
But if it
Diego's
was
a stuff. San Diego's a stuff. Look, San Diego, and I don't fault the San Diego fans for this because of what Spanos did to them for how many years, stealing their money pretty much. Whenever there wasn't a sellout at Qualcomm, they had a deal with the city that they make up the extra seats that aren't bought. So they've been paying and paying and paying. And when it came to a vote to build a new stadium down in downtown San Diego, the San Diego people said, "No, F you, screw you." And they left. And as far as San Diego Padres are concerned, they love them there. I love the park there. I love going to baseball there. I love the area. I would hate that would be.
I love the park as far as the covered area. I sat for my graduation in the uncovered area, and I was roasted. Oh my God, I
Yeah,
was
but that's anywhere.
my whole gown was just like soaked. You could just wring it like. But yes, my family, they were enjoying life because yes, those bleachers that hang over with the shade, yeah, that's a really good view there. So
Yeah, it's I think it's going to be okay. I don't think they're going to go anywhere.
I don't think they're gonna. Where could they actually move to? I mean, Vegas already got its team, and there's really not many options left as far as a real city that they could go to. Uh, but yeah, I don't think they're moving. I think that's the last beacon for pro sports in San Diego. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's a mess. It reminds us of us in a small way, Joe. It reminds me of the Bus family feud that we had over a decade ago, just in a small way.
Well, and the feud,
The Dodgers.
yeah, all three have had the feud, right?
Hmm.
And we're gonna. I think the San Diego one's gonna be the least issued one and from what I'm seeing. I think the brothers are gonna end up taking over, and they'll be supported. And I just don't think that it'd be a smart move to move the team out of San Diego as well, because this is too much. It's too much business there, especially when it comes to the stadium and attendance and the area it's located in. Dr. Buss made one mistake, but I can't really fault him for it because I'm sure that his lifestyle created a guilt from his personal life to where he wanted his children to succeed. The problem was Johnny and Jim are adults, and it's why it's important to be around for your kids, especially your boys, girls too, because that's what they turn into. They turn
Which one
into
had the strings again?
strings.
The Los Angeles Strings. The indoor tennis.
I don't know. Each
I
one.
think it was Johnny. I think.
Yeah, Johnny seemed to be, from what and this is not based off the show or anything like that. It just kind of enhanced it a little more, if you will. But those two are both insecure, just slapdicks from things that I've heard about them. Like, just not dude. They're not men. They're like boys. They're grown up boys, basically. Jeannie was there because she loved her dad and she worked with her dad and she worked hard and blah 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 blah. I don't give a shit what you did with your dad or how hard you worked. Can you do the job? question for that, the answer to that is absolutely not. And you're seeing the results of that right now. And at some point, this is going to come to a head. And again, the Lakers, this isn't an isolated situation. If the Lakers didn't win in 2020, this would be a lot worse, obviously. But the Lakers have been a problem for a while now. This isn't just the last few years. It's just the last few years have been shit, really shitty. But they have not been playing excellent, like Laker basketball excellent for a while now. And I don't see it changing until, I believe, until the Guggenheims take that 27% and make it at least 51.
And we're going to have to see how it goes. But yeah, right now we're kind of in limbo with what's going on with the Fires and what happens with the Lakers. Again, it's looking more and more likely that the game might be postponed. We don't know if the San Antonio games will be postponed on top of it. But if you stay alert with us, keep in tune, follow us at Lakers Fast Break. We'll report it as soon as it comes up. And we'll also talk about it on nightly shows. Game or not, we'll still be here for most of the days right here on the Lakers Fast Break. So definitely have some good content for you. But before we end on out, Joe, I wanted to go ahead and ask your thoughts. Tonight was if you didn't know it, battle between the two top teams in the NBA record-wise right now, and it's not even close, between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The league's best offense against the league's best defense. And today, there was no stopping a good offense. I guess the old adage, a good offense is better than a good defense, really came into play. Unless it's in the playoffs, I guess it seems to revert back to that. But in the regular season, it was 129 to 122. They have a rematch next week. Your thoughts? These are two of the teams the Lakers would have to look into. I think it would be serious as far as them. If they want to go all the way, they'd have to look at them as far as obstacles. I think Cleveland is a very serious contender in the East. I think Boston needs to be wary of that. But tonight we saw a clear indication that Cleveland, as we saw against the Lakers, are riding higher than anyone else right now in the NBA.
Yeah, Cleveland won this game at home in a competitive game. Makes sense. I'm going to pick Oklahoma City next week. I think they'll even it out.
Home and home.
Home and home. Both played amazing basketball. Both are playing out of their minds, as they should, with young, hungry talent.
I'm going on the under. If I'm betting, I'm here in Vegas. I'm going with the under on the total score on that one.
I can't buy in yet to the finals prediction yet. Mm-hmm. Not until I see somebody beat Boston in the East. Crossing our fingers for that one. Hopefully Cleveland can do that. Oklahoma City, I'm not sold on yet all the way. I have to see more. I have to see a little bit more. I still think Denver and Boston at this point. But I would love to see a Oklahoma City Cleveland final. I think that would be an interesting run. Maybe Oklahoma City can get revenge from 2012. I don't know. It's the only story I can think of. And of course, star players and young players. I don't know if anybody on either team is the charismatic one that kind of transcends the game. I think Wembanyama will be that guy, but I'm still kind of up in the air on that too, because his personality doesn't necessarily show that. I don't know if maybe it'll change as he starts getting deeper into the playoffs. If you can remind me, Gerald, when did Steph Curry become like household name?
My guess, a household name is through that first final run.
Was it 15?
Yeah, I think it was 15. Just the way he was lighting it up, how electrifying it was to see that offense moving with the Splash Brothers and all that. Yeah, I mean, Draymond, because of who he is, Draymond, obviously he garnered a lot of the attention, but Curry really, really taking that team to another level at 15. I just think that that's when we started to see the whole league change its outlook on exactly what it needs to do to win games, a whole new outlook on how it's prioritizing the three. And I think, Curry has a lot to do with that. Even today, it's like I watch these games with the Warriors and it's Curry and everyone else. This, I guess, their whole roster full of veterans is now playing like past their prime veterans because he's just not getting a sport. He is like LeBron though, Joe, in that he has old Curry days, just like there's old LeBron days, and it's just sad though when he does turn it on, he lights it up for 30, but his team just can't help him win.
I would have said a few years back that I wouldn't think a French guy would be transcendent in an American league,
Mhm.
but Otani has changed that.
I think
Otani is
Wembanyama.
a
I'm.
so
I think Wembanyama's the
so
real
the
deal.
reason why I think he's very eager to win, besides the fact that he's a competitive guy, I believe it's going to be, hey, I need to take advantage of this ASAP, that I need to start winning so I can be this guy.
Mhm.
So he's going to have to start like probably by next year, no later than the year after. He's going to have to be going deep into the playoffs and
Yeah.
possibly the finals. So they're going to need to do something over there.
They're going to need to do something, but hopefully not yet. At least not until the Lakers get the chance to hopefully beat them twice. But again, we'll see if those games are postponed as well due to the fires going on in SoCal.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the process is going to be. I'm pretty confident that there's going to be a cancellation tomorrow, and how they make up for that game, I don't know. Charlotte's on the other side of the country, so that's going to be really hard to make up.
Yeah, it reminds me of I was reading the ESPN as far as some of the scores at USC. Uh, they're in the Big Ten. They had to play against Rutgers and Maryland. Those are your conference. That's the other side of the country, Joe. And there you're in your conference, I guess, games that you have to play. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if I would have fired the USC athletic director for this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's, like you say, it's all about chasing the money, which it was,
You know, I
but it's
man,
ridiculous.
if it wasn't for the Guggenheims, that LA would be a absolute dumpster fire. And I say that in lieu of a fire, because figuratively, and I know literally it is now on fire, but that's what these, I don't know how, I don't know what anyone does anymore. What do they process anyone? Do they really do a thorough search? Do they really figure out what is going to work with where they are, the elements? Do they know how to convince someone on how to be, or what to expect in these places? This kind of stuff matters. When USC was rumored to try to get Nick Saban to USC, Nick was interviewed, I believe, and he said that I don't want to go to California. Kids don't listen over there like they do down south. That's something to really consider. That's something to consider in your. The media needs to open up more about that kind of stuff. And what that does is it resonates. If you call out the problems and stop making excuses and stop using every excuse, stuff that sometimes doesn't even make sense. And there's so many stupid people, I mean, in high positions, because they got there because you've allowed stupid people to make those calls because they align with your views, or they align with whatever future you want to see. When you do that at the expense of real talent, this is what happens. This is what happens. It starts. It starts from there, and then once that thing gets loose, it's very hard to bring it back. You can't bring it back, but you have to wait, and you have to really find someone that can make it work, and people have to kind of get fed up with the fact that this. Why did Lincoln Riley all of a sudden suck at USC? I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when I started getting a little itch. It was literally the first day that I heard about a plane. A plane. Are you here to coach football, or are you here to fly around your wife? When I hear the term "my wife," you got to make the wife happy, and we saw what happened with Mr. Yukon and his wife. Talk about a happy mistake, happy accident. Look what's going on with him. He's lost 4 games already. He lost only 3 last year. Maybe he should have came to LA. Although I don't think it would have worked out at this point, not with this team, anyways. But we could have a talk about this for hours and we can dissect it. But in the end, to keep it simple and not bore people with the information, bad leadership in so many areas, nonstop, and the excuse machines have taken over the last few decades in all walks of life. And we've created basically soft, unaccountable morons. And this is the result.
So we will see what happens if the Lakers do play a game tomorrow. It's looking more and more like they will not. I know that Danny said, and others have said that, obviously what's going on in and around those areas, including near him. Schools have been, I think Ali said schools have been closed for tomorrow due to the poor air conditions. And I have a feeling that that's just a precursor for what we're going to see as far as cancellations tomorrow. And then going forward, could we see cancellations with the upcoming San Antonio games? And could we see a move by the NFL to, I wonder why are they using, did they say why they're using Arizona instead of somewhere closer like Vegas? Not that I would say anything about that.
Probably logistically, I think Arizona's maybe a little easier to get around versus where Alliant Stadium is and all the headaches and the hotels there. If you go,
it's actually really easy, Joe. It's not that hard.
Yeah, that's because you live there. I'm assuming they're trying to figure out fans and how that's all going to work.
It's probably easier to, for logistics for, CES already be gone by that time. So it's actually probably hotels to be open.
I'm going to say this, and you're going to die laughing too, since you asked that question. I think it was a pretty hilarious thing that you asked this question. Why Arizona, right? Oh, man. So their stadium used to be called University of Phoenix.
Yes.
And up until about a month ago, I didn't know they changed the name. You know what their name is now?
What is it?
State Farm.
Oh, man.
Have you heard about what's So I'm like moving it to Arizona so that you could play this game at State Farm Stadium. The same dickweeds who have pulled out or allegedly have or whatever. The genesis of the conspiracy theory right now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I'm not someone who's overly, everything happens for a reason. I hate karma when someone says karma will get somebody, because I like to inflict the karma. I don't like to wait or not know really. But man, there is somebody out there, God or something. There's got to be something out there pulling the strings sometimes, man. So yeah, it's. I think logistically, it's gonna probably be a little easier. I've been to State Farm a few times. It's really easy to get in and out of there. It's not as compacted. It's not as congested, and I think it's probably more available than maybe the one in Vegas. For all I don't know.
We'll see. I don't think it's bad at all. I mean, comparatively what I'm used to with other stadiums in and around SoCal, I've been to Phoenix, but I have not been to the stadium. So if you'll have to take your word for it on that.
I mean,
But yeah,
it's not the greatest state, and it's a football stadium. It's domed up and nothing special. It's nice. Um, I still would pick old Qualcomm over it just because I think the way the stadium was built had a little bit of nostalgia, old school type arenas. A lot of these new arenas all look the same. They all look like a technology driven just bowl, because they want to cater to the Super Bowls. Arizona caters to the Super Bowl. Dallas, uh, SoFi, they all kind of have the same look in a lot of ways, and that's why Dodger Stadium is such a beautiful stadium. It's different. It's not the new stuff, the new arena. Well, actually, baseball's sometimes a little different. Even the new stuff is look good. PNC Park in Pittsburgh is still one of the apparently the best stadium to go watch baseball game in. It's just unfortunate their owners don't give a damn about the team.
yeah, Bloodhound. It is closer than Phoenix, but hey, it's up to the league, I guess. I don't know. I don't get it myself, but I know that Allegiant doesn't have anything going on until a soccer game on the 18th. So
It's
they,
not that. It's not that closer. It's maybe an hour and a half closer. If you take the 10 and just go straight to Phoenix, it's a one shot deal. You don't have to get off the freeway.
through the highway of doom, the highway of death.
What night? Which one?
There's the one lane highway of death that you can take that gets you there sooner to Phoenix from Las Vegas. I forget which number it is. I've done it twice. It's not been very pleasant if you hit it the right way, or you got to make sure you zoom around. You know, when you're driving, there's somebody slow in front of you, and you're on a one lane highway going back and forth, and you just got to make sure you time it right. You know, it's like doing that stuff, but they call it the highway of death for a reason. I'll just leave it at that. But Danny says a lawsuit coming for State Farm Stadium. No, it's just naming rights, Danny. These companies pay millions of dollars for these naming, like crypto.com. They paid millions of dollars for the naming rights for this, what was once the Staples Center. So Bloodhound says I've only done the Orange County to Vegas trip. Yeah, I've done that on the 15 many a time, but yeah, just we'll see what happens. Again, we will retweet it out for you guys on at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter. So hopefully you're following us there. And later on tomorrow night, we'll go ahead and have a recap or an NBA observations or something like that. Trying to get a hold of Legend, so because I know he wants to come back on the air. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. We'll see. But of course, it is Lakers Fast Break. Truly looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the chat about the Lakers. Were they distracted? Were they tired? Again, still no excuse with no Kyrie and no Luca and no Gafford. So we'll see. But again, the Lakers tonight still in sixth place. The Clippers lost to the Nuggets, but the problem is the Nuggets are gaining some distance away from the Lakers, making it a little bit harder for them to catch up as they are looking to rebound and climb up the ladder themselves. But Joe, again, the Lakers get back on track. This is the time to do it. They come home for, I think, 5 games, all of which are very winnable, depending on whether or not they postpone this Charlotte game. What are your thoughts before we head on out?
I'll play it by ear at this point. I have no idea. What they might do is they might postpone it till Friday when things kind of maybe die down a little bit. Then they don't have to worry about changing it for another date. Let me look at Charlotte's schedule. Hold on. Charlotte plays the Lakers Thursday, and then their next game isn't until Saturday. So
they could do it back
they
to
could
back.
do it. They could do it. Yeah. So I'd pitch that.
And the Lakers, their next game is on Saturday, I believe, with the San Antonio deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then Charlotte plays the Clippers on Saturday. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I was really getting kind of excited a little bit that they might be able to make a run here, and I thought the Dallas one would be it to start this run, and it completely derailed my enthusiasm.
Same here, my friend. Again, we talk about it. We get a lot of flack for where we picked the Lakers at the start of the season, but there are reasons why we went into it because this is just a team that, again, just does not have enough depth to pick this team up. Just doesn't have that quality guy that's going to just go ahead and explode when the other guys are down. And I know that Jamie said, as far as really believing in Vando, that's great. I'm glad. I'm happy for him. I don't believe in Vando as well as he does. If you guys do, more power to you. But he would not have changed things yesterday on such a down note for the entire team. I don't think anybody would have, which still doesn't make an excuse why the Lakers just had that kind of turd that they did yesterday, Joe.
I really don't want to hear Jared Vanderbilt's name anymore.
It's coming back soon, supposedly.
I am sick and tired of hearing that guy's name.
Danny says the Lakers are like the Dallas Cowboys, Uncle Joe. I don't know about that.
I think Cowboys are worse.
Yeah, Danny. Cowboys have had, as Joe said, when was the last time they were in the NFC?
Last time they were in the NFC Championship game is 1996.
I think that says it all.
They're coming up on the 29th season where they haven't made an NFC Championship game, and they were the kings of the NFC Championship game. Them and the Niners in the NFC.
I mean, all those NFL films. I mean, all the Sable films are like, go through Dallas, in Dallas, or Dallas on the road. They're so iconic in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And look what happened.
Yeah, Jerry Jones is. People who look up to people like that, who aren't family members or people sucking off the teat, right? I mean, how many people really suck off the teat? Maybe 30, 40 people. But everyone else, like, why would you even, like, if I saw Jerry Jones in the street, I wouldn't give a shit. Walk right by him. I wouldn't give two shits about him. He means nothing to me. Rich and all this crap. Why are people enamored by rich celebrities? I mean, if you're going to get enamored for someone, okay, Keanu Reeves, okay, I get that one. Guy's a good dude, takes care of people. But Jerry Jones, you all allowed him to be Jerry? For what? What has he done other than make money? He didn't know how to run a freaking football team. He's shown it for almost 30 years. The only reason why that team succeeded was because of Jimmy Johnson. And you don't got to ask me. Go talk to Troy Aikman privately. Talk to Troy Aikman privately. I'm sure he'll tell you some stuff. I don't know for sure, but I have a pretty good feeling Troy will tell you exactly what's going on, because he was America's team champion 3 times. He didn't know better than anybody. I think Michael Irvin is so loyal to Jerry, I don't think he'd say a negative word either privately or publicly. Maybe Emmitt Smith. Emmitt's a pretty straight shooter. I'd say maybe he'd probably tell you the truth. But I like Troy. I think Troy would tell you the truth. Emmitt might still support his guy.
Tough. So we hear you on Vincent again. Not very impressive in his return. 21 minutes, big donut. Jackson Hayes, upon his return, hasn't done a whole lot. So kind of disappointing, especially when. Well, for Hayes, I guess it's a minimum contract. So what are you going to do at the end of the day with him? But for Vincent on his contract, makes it harder indeed. It's funny because I saw this ESPN article about what every team can do, what one trade that each team can do or should try to do or try to look at, and of course Zach LaVine's name came up for the Lakers, and the guy put in there to get him, they would have to trade Rui, and to keep Reeves, they had to put in Vanderbilt and Vincent and JHS and the two first. And I'm just like thinking to myself, okay, you've got to pitch a hell of a lot more to me if you want to stick me with the Vando and the Vincent contract. I mean, as much as we want to trade them away, Joe, people have to be realistic. There are GMs on the other end of that call, Joe, that have to worry about their job, and they have to answer for it from their owners why they picked up two bad contracts, not one but two bad contracts in Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent.
Rob doesn't have to answer to it.
No, but I'm talking about the GM on the other end. Let's say Chicago's end.
You want to unload those contracts? You better get ready to give them three first round picks.
Which we don't have. No. Which we don't have. We can't bundle them. Only two.
No, you might be able to get rid of Gabe maybe in a setup, but get Vanderbilt? No. That's like the Chris Taylor contract with the Dodgers. It makes too much money. And it's too long. Yeah. I just don't like any of these people, man. I don't like most people in general because most people bore me and they're generally useless. But when you're in a high position like this and you have all this power over a iconic franchise, it makes it worse.
Before we head on out, did you like the Gavin Lux trade? I forgot to catch up with you on
I'm indifferent. It was a trade they had to make.
Money-wise?
Once they got Kim. I don't know much about Kim. They must see something in him. Mm-hmm. They must see something in Kim in terms of possibly his durability. Because I think Lux's durability, whether it was his fault or not, has been somewhat of an issue the last few years. Also, he just doesn't get full seasons in. This last year, he was amazing after the All-Star break, but still recovering at the first half. And at some point, you're just like, look, we've had every scenario happen here. I think at some point we're gonna need to go with something a little bit more reliable. Plus, Kim can play shortstop in case Betts can't. And the Dodgers are very, very, very thorough in who they get that can be multifaceted. And despite what I say right now, in Andrew Friedman, I trust. Whatever he does at this point doesn't bother me. He keeps somebody, doesn't keep somebody. I have so much confidence in this executive board from top to bottom. If they feel like certain things are the right way to go, I'm going to support it. My only issue I had that was squashed, at least for this run, was I just wanted our damn manager to manage the mother effing game. That's why you're the manager. If it was all going to be by the books and by the numbers, then why do you have a manager? Just have, at that point, you just might as well just have Mark Pryor go in there and just tell him what's up. He's the pitching coach. That's usually where things get all riled up anyways. Might as well roll with it. But Dave Roberts, I believe, where I have a lot, where I'm thinking that the heat finally came, and I believe Dave Roberts came through. I believe he finally said, look, if this is what's going to happen, if this is the threat now, then I'm going to do shit my way. And he did it. He did things that were unconventional before. And look what happened.
Is the market for DH just $12 million a year? Because that's what a 40 home run Brent Rooker signed with the Athletics for. 5 for 60.
I mean, that's pretty amazing when the A's are spending $12 million on a DH.
Yeah, exactly.
But the A's, I think, are starting.
They have to spend.
They have to start promoting the future now. If they play this cheap game, they know what's coming. They know this stadium. They know the stadium is going to bring up the value of the team. Unfortunately,
But they have to get it to 100 million as well. They don't if they don't if they do not spend at least 1.5 times the revenue sharing money they receive, the A's run the risk of a union grievance.
there you go. So somebody in baseball said, your ass ain't gonna just go get a stadium and get what you want. You're gonna have to pay for it too, because we're asking the public for money that they don't want to spend. The mayor didn't want the damn team there. So imagine what kind of under the table crap they have to do with that lady.
I just thought it was kind of weird, Eric, that a guy hits almost 40 home runs. He had 39, and yet he's only worth $12 million a year.
Because
yet we see
probably,
like
he's probably a low leverage hitter. You know, a lot of these guys are just going to make their balls up.
297, man. Although, you know, it's all the statistics in the war and all that. So
if he can't field, which that's suspect for him, he doesn't really run. He can hit, okay, but baseball is more than just one thing. Unless you're getting him to do one thing and you got a full roster of competitive players, I'm kind of bummed, man. The Oakland A's had that was also an iconic name, Oakland A's. They three-peated in the mid-'70s. They were amazing in the late 80s and early 90s. And you had Eckersley and Dave Stewart, Ricky Henderson, and Canseco, McGuire, Dave Henderson. I mean, you had some just guys that I grew up just watching, and we knew their batting stances, and we emulated those teams. I was in Central California when those guys were playing them. It was a big staple in our life. We knew everybody. We admired a lot of them, even though they weren't our favorite. They were not our favorite teams. So it's just kind of sad. It's going to be the Las Vegas A's, which kind of has a ring to it. It's not a bad name, but
don't get me started.
Are they going to call them the Vegas A's?
I would rather call them the Oakland A's and get them out of town personally, but it is what it is.
Oakland is a cesspool at this point.
I don't want the A's. Nobody wants the A's. I talk to people all around left and right here in this town. They don't want the A's. So, Eric, I don't see the $16 million option.
We don't want the WNBA. They keep shoving that down our throat.
Ace has won 2 championships in a row. They're very popular here in Las Vegas. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, Eric, I don't see the $60 million option. There is in 2030 a vesting option which contains escalators in 2030. But for the rest of the years, they are all fixed at $12 million. So I think that's still for a designated hitter. If he gets you anywhere near the kind of season he had last season, I think for a guy that's going to be in his mid-30s during this contract, or by the end of this contract, that's a good deal. But we'll see. He'll probably get traded at some point by the A's. That's usually the way they do it. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. I truly appreciate you joining us. It is, of course, Joe Sorrell. Yeah, that would be 22 million. That's what I said. Yeah, it's on Sport Track on that there. It's like do the escalator options on that. So I don't know where the 16 was on that. So it doesn't indicate that on Sport Track. But it is, of course, Joe Sorrell.
You were never going to get an expansion team. This is the only way you're going to get a team in Vegas, though. I
don't want a baseball team. I already have good with what we have, but we're going to get a baseball team. We're going to get another.
Don't you think Vegas? Okay, let me ask you this. There's a lot of issues going on with the casinos, right?
Such as? Just
people aren't spending as much money as they used to.
I have to check the state camp. Yeah, it's down by percentage points. Yeah, I'm sure.
Why did they start charging for parking? That was the one great thing about Vegas.
Oh, it's because they can find revenue.
Really? Is that how desperate they are?
Yeah, it's so much harder to find free parking on the Strip. Trust me, I know this.
Wouldn't that make people less likely to come now?
Oh, there's the resort fees, all that stuff they're adding in there now. Yeah, people are less likely.
That's because of the stadiums and the arenas that pay for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I did not want a stadium. Didn't want a football stadium. I voted against that, and I voted against a baseball stadium. But you see how that goes. Ultimately, if If the right individuals want a certain thing somewhere, they're going to get it. And when the NBA finally relents later this decade, most likely when they give Seattle, Las Vegas expansion teams, guess what we're going to build? We're going to build another arena down the street on the strip because we've got plenty of space to put it, and there's going to be someone that wants to go ahead and have their own cushy stadium, and we're not worried have to worry about the Golden Knights T-Mobile Stadium. So
nice, very nice.
For the state's 2024 fiscal year, statewide gross gaming revenue climbed more than 4% to a record $15.76 billion. Just to let you know. Gambling, Joe. Gambling.
And then they'll blame who will they blame in 10, 20 years when people are addicted to crack because of it? Is the NFL going to have one of those stupid ass signs that says, "We know someone who died from gambling" at halftime? Are they going to be doing that kind of shit? Hypocrite assholes.
Can't wait until Big Pharma finds a drug for that one, then has to have a commercial list all like 30 seconds for the commercial, 40 seconds for all the stuff that can happen to you if you take it. So Eric says, was it expensive for CES event? Yeah, if you're not an industry affiliate, I go for free, or I covered as press. This year I was just a industry guest. There's a lot of work that has to be done if you want to go as press. I usually go as press, but if you don't want to, if you just want to buy a ticket to it, yeah, it's like $300, I think, something like that. But I get to go in free. So I've been doing it since 1990s. I think because of my tenure, I've been going since '96. And it's kind of cool always to see these difference as far as between the electronics and just see what the future holds for all the electronics. It's really cool. It's really cool. Just really crowded. Looking forward to tomorrow because everybody stays there. Everybody just goes for Tuesday and Wednesday. They start thinning out, but people are already heading on out on Wednesday night. So yeah, Thursday should be really, really kind of good. See what I can do. See what I can get. See what I can see at CES. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. And then I will be talking about my time at CES on a future Pop Culture Cosmos as well. So looking forward to that. But Joe, I know you're tired. We've been on the air for 2 hours talking football, a little bit of baseball, of course, basketball, and of course, our thoughts with everybody out there that's suffering through the fires. Our thoughts are still with you, Danny. Our prayers are with you and your family as well. So, Joe, any last thoughts before we head on out?
Stay cool. Like me.
Absolutely, Xbox, but let me know well in advance because hotel rates and hotel occupancies, again, they're a little bit high, at least until Thursday. Thursday is the day to come in because Wednesday night, everybody seems to leave after CES.
Vegas, this is what you can stick your greed in.
That's where I live, man. Goodness gracious, man.
I'm not talking about where you live. I'm talking about the freaking greedy casino pieces of garbage. I hate them. Hate. Hate, capitalized in Comic Sans. Hate. Hate those people. I hate those people with every ounce of my being. I hope all their casinos go under.
Parking and resort fees started when, parking fees at the more expensive casinos, Eric, parking fees were there, but it was just like just 3 or 4 of them. All of them in the past, I want to say just before the pandemic, started really implementing them. And then after the pandemic, all of them really, stay classy, San Diego. All of them really got into putting it as far as fees. All the hotels on the strip have some sort of fees right there, and it's just really gotta really figure out and find places where to park free still in Las Vegas on the strip. It's getting harder and harder because some of the places I used to go, I'd go back there like. When I saw Aussie Joe, I was the Hooters Hotel. What used to be Hooters Hotel, it's called Oyo Hotel now. which is ironic because they still have a Hooters in the hotel, but they no longer call it Hooters Hotel. So I digress. That used to be free, and it used to be right near the strip. So yeah, that'd be the place to go. When I get go to the Golden Knights game or go to the football game, what have you. Yeah, last time I went to see Aussie. Nope, they charge, and I was just like, oh crap. Now I gotta find somewhere else. All right.
I
Yeah.
had
Well,
some of
tomorrow,
my best wings and beer at that Hooters place.
in the one in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
There you go. It's still there.
Before it turned into a dumpster fire.
It's still there, Joe. It's just the Hooters sold off the hotel part. So yeah, I don't know what Oyo is or Oyo means or Oyo what about it, but yeah, it's Oyo for all whatever. But again, it is all about money in Las Vegas. I won't disagree. And on that note, it is of course the Lakers Fast Break. We will alert you on Twitter first at Lakers Fast Break if we get an update. We are expecting a cancellation or postponement of the game. We don't know to when, but we'll let you know. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we'll at least have a small NBA observations or snack pack to go ahead and give you an update of what's going on with the Lakers and hopefully give you an idea of what's going on with the NBA. But for Joe Soro, it's Cheryl Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. For all of us, to all of you, right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.